Kofi and the Magic Calabash. Once upon a time, in a small and peaceful village surrounded by green hills and crystal-clear rivers, there was a boy named Kofi. Before misfortune touched his life, he was a happy child who lived with his parents in a cozy adobe house with a thatched roof. His mother, Oma, was a woman with a sweet laugh and skilled hands who wove beautiful fabrics and prepared the most delicious stews, filling their home with comforting aromas. His father, Kojo, was a strong and wise farmer, known for his generosity and for teaching his son the value of hard work and kindness. Kofi spent his days running through the fields, helping his father plant maize and care for the animals. He loved waking up to the sound of birds singing and running barefoot through the grass wet with morning dew. His mother told him ancient stories while they cooked together, and at night, his father would sit him on his lap to teach him songs and proverbs of the village. Laughter and love were never lacking in their home, reflected in every small gesture. However, Kofi's happiness crumbled when a sudden illness took his parents within weeks. Now alone in the world, he was taken in by his uncle Kwame. Kwame was a kind man but weak-willed, and his wife, Adwa, was cruel and heartless. From the very first day he arrived at their house, Adwa made it clear that Kofi was not welcome. She assigned him all the household chores, from sweeping to fetching water from the river, cooking, and washing clothes. While his cousins played and ate to their heart's content, Kofi was given leftovers, if there were any. He slept in a dark corner of the kitchen on an old, tattered mat, with the cold of the night seeping into his bones and his stomach growling with hunger. Every morning, before dawn, Kofi woke up to the crowing of the roosters and hurried to light the fire in the kitchen. He had to prepare breakfast for the family before walking a great distance to fetch water from the village well. Balancing the water container on his head, he returned only to begin sweeping the yard and washing clothes by the river. Meanwhile, Adwa and her children sat at the table, enjoying a warm meal without a care for daily chores. Kofi watched from a distance, inhaling the scent of the food but never daring to ask for a single bite. When he finished his morning tasks, Kofi would go to the village square to run errands. The village baker, a kind woman named Nana, always gave him a small, hard piece of bread when she noticed how thin and tired he looked. Kofi silently expressed his gratitude and saved the bread for the night when his hunger was strongest. Sometimes, he sat under the shade of a great baobab tree and watched the other children run and play, imagining what his life would be like if his parents were still alive. In the afternoons, after cutting firewood and bringing it home, he would sit for a moment under a nearby tree to rest. He watched other children play, laugh, and run, while he dreamed of a different life, one where he, too, could enjoy the childhood that had been stolen from him. Sometimes, he would build small figures from leaves and twigs for entertainment, but his free time was always short, as Adwa would find new tasks for him. One day, Adwa ordered him to go into the forest to collect firewood. "Don't come back until you have enough for the entire week," she said coldly. Without protest, Kofi took his basket and walked deep into the forest. He walked for hours, gathering dry branches, but soon hunger and exhaustion overcame him. He sat beneath a large, lush tree, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Why do they treat me this way?" he asked aloud. "Do I not deserve a little happiness, too?" Suddenly, the sound of rustling leaves caught his attention. An elderly woman with white hair and wise eyes emerged from the trees. She wore a dress of vibrant colors and leaned on a wooden staff carved with intricate designs. "My child, why are you crying?" she asked in a gentle voice. Kofi, surprised but feeling a strange trust in the woman, told her his sad story. The old woman nodded solemnly and, with a warm smile, pulled out a calabash from her cloak. "Take this calabash, my boy," she said. "It is magical. Whenever you are hungry, say the words, 'Calabash, feed me,' and it will give you the finest feast. But remember, gratitude and humility are important. Do not use it with greed." Amazed, Kofi took the calabash with both hands and thanked the old woman. When he looked up again to speak to her, she had vanished as if she had never been there. He returned home with his heart racing with excitement. That night, after a long day without food, he sat in his corner and whispered, "Calabash, feed me." Immediately, the calabash began to glow, and before his astonished eyes, it filled with a banquet, golden rice with spices, juicy pieces of meat, fresh fruit, and warm bread. Kofi ate until he was satisfied, then carefully ate the calabash. Days passed, and Kofi secretly nourished himself, regaining his strength and energy. He no longer looked thin or weak, and Adwa began to notice the change. "How is it possible that this boy looks so healthy?" she wondered with suspicion. She decided to spy on him. One night, she watched in silence as Kofi took out the calabash and spoke the magic words. Her eyes filled with greed as she saw the food appear as if by magic. As soon as Kofi fell asleep, Adwa sneaked into the kitchen and took the calabash. "If it works for him, it will obey me too," she thought maliciously. She took the calabash to her room and whispered, "Calabash, feed me." But instead of food, the calabash began to tremble, and suddenly, hundreds of furious bees swarmed out of it and attacked her mercilessly. Her screams woke the entire village. Kwame and the neighbors ran to see what was happening and found Adwa writhing on the floor, covered in stings. Kofi, seeing the scene, explained the truth, how he had received the calabash as a reward for his kindness and how Adwa had stolen it out of greed. The village elders deliberated and decided that Kofi should no longer live with such a cruel woman. Kwame, ashamed for not protecting his nephew, returned everything that had belonged to Kofi's parents, their house, their land, and his inheritance. From that day on, Kofi lived happily, using the calabash to help orphans and the elderly. Adwa learned that greed only brings misfortune. Moral: kindness and patience are always rewarded, while greed and wickedness lead to punishment and ruin.